On this special episode of Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks, Chris is going to whip out his toolbox and build a PC. Coming right up. How's it going, everybody? Obviously, just having a little bit of fun. Chris spent some time shopping at a micro center this week and went a little nuts, decided to buy everything for a new PC build. And when you have a pile of new hardware, obviously, we want to show it to all of the geeks out there. So he has it set up in his lab, and we're going to build it for you live. Chris, are you able to show everybody what you have on tap over there?
Yeah, so let me hop in here. So, yeah, I've got all the goods right down here. So Brittany and I were in Cincinnati for the weekend, and since we've now moved from Maine into the woods of eastern Kentucky, I don't exactly have much immediate access to computer parts anymore. I think the closest Best Buy is about 2 hours away from me. So needless to say, when being in Cincinnati, I took advantage of the trip and stopped by the Micro Center there. So I have cobbled together quite a lot of goodness here. So let me get the ticker going again, and so we can run through the parts real quick, I suppose. So starting off, going with the Raptor Lake Core i7 13700K, just a good solid gaming chip. I went into the Micro Center not exactly knowing what I wanted to build. I mean, I knew roughly where I wanted to be at, but no real preferences between AMD or Intel or NVIDIA or any of that. But kind of talking to the rep there. Shout out to Zach if you happen to watch this. Yeah, I didn't say who I was, but you did a very good job, so thank you. So basically kept it a bit more conservative with the CPU. Was initially looking at an RTX 4080 as the GPU option, but it turns out they had GPUs pretty close to MSRP there for the 4090, and I just kind of, with some coaxing from Brittany, actually gave into some temptation and went for the 4090 after all.
Wait,
so
let me pause you for a second. Did she coax you to get it or not to get it?
To get it, yeah.
Wow, that's a keeper right there.
Because I was going with the 4080, and then she's like, look, just get the 4090. I think because she didn't want to hear me complaining about what could have been if I didn't. I don't know. Maybe she's just feeling generous that day. But yeah, so it's her fault I went for this and slightly broke my budget. So I was targeting about $3,000 for my build. And I think the 4080 would have had me at like 2,700 or so. And I think I ended up about 32 with this. So I went a little over, but it's business, right?
That's it. Exactly.
So
it's business and pleasure.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to work with this. The case I ended up going with, so I've been wanting to work with the NZXT H7 Flow. Unfortunately, they were out of stock on that. So I kind of went with my second choice there, which is the Corsair 4000D, also airflow oriented. So should be still a fantastic chassis to build in. Really nice creature comforts, which we'll get to when we get there. I've got the kind of, just a solid motherboard with the MSI Mag Z790 Tomahawk Wi-Fi. So, not the craziest Z790 board out there, but will definitely be serviceable. I don't plan to do any real insane overclocking with this, just to make sure I'm hitting performance targets with it.
Those top end Z790s and X670E boards, they're just so much more expensive
than
even
so
the
much.
slightly
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, this one I'd have to check the receipt. It was like 200 and something.
Yeah, like the Godlike is like 5x that price. That's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was 270. So not bad for a DDR5 motherboard. And one thing that I did know I wanted going in was 64 gigs of RAM at somewhere around DDR5-6000, and I found just that with this G-SIL kit, the Trident C5, DDR5-6000 with a CL30 timing, so nice and quick. That comes to about a 10 nanosecond true latency, which is right where I want to be. So very excited about that kit because in addition to using Photoshop and Lightroom and video editing and stuff, I also enjoy playing City Skylines a lot. And that game is a absolute RAM hog. Not to mention trying to have Chrome running at any point. The other day, I think I had 6 tabs open in Chrome, open Task Manager, and it was consuming like 19 gigs. I don't know why. The browser is just, I'll get it. I switched back to Edge. But maybe I can run Chrome again. The other thing down here, I've got some Arctic fans for the front. These are the P14 140 mils, just to fill the front of the case. So the plan with this is to put the 280 mil liquid cooler up in the top, and then have the 3 140 mil fans in the front for intake.
And are you going to do anything nuts with RGB or just going straight, clean, straightforward build?
I didn't really put any personal emphasis on RGB. Some of the components do have it. I've got it on the Trident Z. There's a touch on the ASUS 4090. And there's even some on the block for the H115i Pro, which this is not part of the new haul. I reviewed this several years ago now. I think that was part of the first gen Ryzen wave. So hopefully the cooler still works. If not, I'll have to get a new one.
We'll find out when you run the first benchmark on it.
Right. I did get the, there is a little kit that has the screws you need for adapting to LGA 1700. So gotcha. With that, I guess we should clear some space and dig in. So I'm just going to go ahead and move the tower for now.
Yeah, you start doing your thing. I'm gonna riff on what my procedure would be, because it's gonna be interesting to watch you. Like if I was in this mode right now, starting with a pile of full boxes of goodies, I tend to start with the motherboard, CPU, RAM, and SSD. And that's all going to get, all right. So that's all going to go into the motherboard. And then we, head into the case, cooler. And the last steps are PSU and graphics card. That's at least my procedure.
Right. Yeah. I will quickly assemble outside the case first, just to make sure things are working before we get too crazy with any cable management type stuff. So.
Yep.
I will say I do have the Streacom, the open bench table, but since I've moved, I'm not exactly sure where it landed. So I used to always keep it in my office closet. I don't think it's made it here, and I didn't think to dig for it before going live here. So in this box here, there's antenna for the Wi-Fi. There's a couple of SATA cables, which we won't be needing with the NVMe. And of course, a bunch of stickers and installation guide and all that. So I'm going to just set these in here for now. I'm not going to worry about the Wi-Fi. And then there's also the M.2. It's not quite a screw, but it is a locker, so you can do some toolless assembly. Maybe I'll keep that out just in case we need it.
Chris, we have a new nickname for Brittany. It's called the Anomaly, for that spousal approval of the RTX 4090.
Yeah, I don't think Zach, the rep at Micro Center, could quite believe his ears when she was the one encouraging me to splurge. So I'm not going to complain. All right, so let's see if we can bring you in here.
I can already see one thing you're going to have to contend with. The heat sink on the SSD is either coming off, or you're not going to use the shield on the board. Or wait a minute, no, that SSD doesn't have a heat sink, does it?
This one I think is just the bare drive.
Okay, you're good then. You're good. Don't listen to me.
Yeah, I did bring my knife. That's good. Yeah, I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's just a bare. Yeah, I'm gonna
play with some of these StreamYard layouts. I didn't realize we can do picture in picture. I'm gonna try it for a second.
Oh yeah, go for it. Yep, it's just the where are we? Come on.
Yeah, that Canon focus. You got to back up a little. There it is. You had it.
There we go. Yeah,
okay.
Just the bare
drive.
You'll
be good.
So no worries with that. So let's get the board here. I'll actually slide in the camera, I think.
See if you can open your aperture a little bit, get a little bit more light in there, maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah. I'm wide open, but we can boost the ISO. So I guess we can break into the CPU and start with that.
Cool. I am going to multitask while you are opening boxes. Nothing going on in the chat. Matt is saying good luck. Remember the last time I built a PC, Chris? I assume Matt ran into some troubles.
Yeah, there was some troubleshooting excursions there, I think, around the power supply, which I'm trying to remember, Matt, was that the same? Did you have the same model, the RM1000X, or a relative thereof? I think there was something unique with the Corsair power supply with how cables needed to be connected, which I've typically built with EVGA power supplies before, but kind of wanted to try a few different things with this build. So I got the Corsair power supply, and I usually go Samsung with the SSDs, but this case Western Digital. So wanted to explore some different options. So
Matt responded and said, yes, that was the power supply. So I guess you'll have to pay special attention.
Yeah, so he'll have to remind me on what to do. Let's see if I just bring this into single point focus.
There it is.
That's a little better.
Cool.
So we'll get that out. So we'll unlock the lever. And which way does this open up here? So for those who haven't installed a CPU before, you'll find that there is a little tiny arrow. If I can center this, trying to look over my shoulder. Little tiny arrow here to indicate and line up with another arrow. Usually on the socket, I don't actually see the arrow.
The old pin 1
here.
location.
Yeah.
You actually can't install it backwards in the socket because of the nibs on the side either with Rocket Lake.
Okay.
So
yeah, this is the first Rocket Lake or even Alder Lake CPU that I have installed. So we'll just set that in. It's not, they use the LGAs for, well, I think everyone's using LGA now, so you don't need to worry about bent pins so much.
So, Marco, you're saying it's Dave proof.
Let's not go overboard.
Bad boy.
Move the socket cover and just latch it down. And then over here, I'm using this ceramic tube. It's a ceramic.
Is that a really
compound.
old tube? Is that old, or did you buy that fresh?
This is brand new, but it's ceramic, not silver, so it's non-conductive. Yeah. This is what I was using on the servers with 350, 400 watts per socket, and it was keeping them nice and cool. So I think I can trust it.
I used to use the original ceramic when it first came out. Many years ago. Oh my God. I have since switched to MX6. I was using MX4 for a while. MX6 came out, I think it was this year or just a few months ago. And it's actually brought temps down a couple degrees versus the MX4. So decent thermal paste. I think I just missed the question.
Going too crazy with the overclocking, but yep.
Hardly Worgen over on Twitch is saying, "Oh, you're not using a contact frame. Impressive." So with Raptor Lake, although it wasn't publicized much, there is a slight change to the heat spreader and the socket, so it's not quite as much possible bending. The contact frame does still make it better. But if you're not going to go nuts and you're not going to try to squeeze every last megahertz out of it for overclocking, going stock is fine.
Yeah. Now I'm realizing I probably should have set up the liquid cooler a little sooner, but yeah, that's fine. do it live. So I think this probably still has the AMD bracket on, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off.
Just a little dab in the center there, Chris. You're not going to do the crisscross applesauce application of paste or nothing like that. Nothing fancy.
Less is more. So with thermal paste is a less bad option than air, but metal-to-metal contact is still better. So you want that thermal paste, once you get the cooler on and squish, to really be as thin as possible. It's really just there to fill in some microscopic imperfections. But less is definitely more. And even that is probably a heavier amount than I typically like to use.
So if I could, I'm going to get nerdy for a second. When I'm being anal, like if I'm doing a build for myself that's going to stay built for a long time, I would do a tiny little pea. I rub it in, like I'll cover my finger with a piece of saran wrap or just plastic from the packaging. I rub it into the heat spreader, then wipe that away, and you'll see it leaves like a haze on the heat spreader. You basically really filled in some of the microscopic holes with some of the oils from the thermal paste. Then you can get by with using a little bit less because it spreads easier. So that's if you're, being super anal like I would be.
Yeah, that's some Zen stuff right there. Good advice.
So let me. Got the back plate for the cooler that I'm installing. And since I put the thermal paste on already, I don't exactly want to flip this upside down.
It'll stick.
Yeah. So there's, I guess I'll show you on this bracket. Doing this over my shoulder and backwards is not the easiest task. But the little posts are on sliders with this, so it is adjustable within a certain range, which is why this part can just straight up fit the newer LG A1700 socket, but it does use new screws. So take this and set that down, and then where did I set the screws? Here they are.
Are you gonna test outside of the case, or are you just getting the bracket loaded up for now?
Yeah, I'm gonna quickly test outside the case and just make sure we post.
Gotcha.
Because if this is DOA at all, which can always happen, then it'll cut the stream real short. And I don't want to deal with digging it back out of a very carefully managed chassis. So these are basically just a, double-sided screw with the.
Are the threads different on each side, or you can't mess it? It's the same on either side, and either side, and you can't mess it up.
They seem to be the same on both sides. Gotcha. So, or I've gotten 3 out of 4 on a 50-50 guess just fine. But to my eye, they do look to be the same.
In that surprising moment where your camera actually focused, they did look the same to me too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then I'm just trying to remember how to. I haven't actually installed this cooler on Intel, so just quickly making sure I'm in the right neighborhood.
Yeah, you're probably done on the motherboard side, and you have to switch the bracket on the heat plate.
Yeah.
I don't remember if the spacing is different on LG A1700 versus previous Gen 1s. And we have Tim is hanging out with us on Twitch. He is not on YouTube today. Tim is saying, is Marco making sure Chris does not blow this up? Tim, Chris is like 10 times smarter than me, so no, he's going to be fine.
Yeah, Marco's just here for the entertainment.
If you can call what I do entertainment. That's a stretch.
I mean, laughing at my mistakes and pitfalls. So let's see. I'm a little worried about clearance with the RAM, but I guess we're good here. So that'll work.
Can you rotate it?
So you can, but the logo shows to go this way. And we've got to have the logo going the right way.
I mean, obviously, you're probably not going to use the DIMM slot closest to the socket, if my memory serves on MSI boards. So you're probably all right.
Right. It's usually, if I'm not quite on camera. So it's usually the outermost and then the third one in.
Yep. And the reason why Chris is using 2 sticks of DDR5 is if you go to 4 on either the latest Ryzen or Intel platforms, you drastically cut the frequency of the memory. So always best to stick with 2 sticks on these modern platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look real close, I think I could switch to this view. Oh, no, that's not going to do it. If you look real close at the upper edge of his DIMM slots, you can see a little kind of line that's showing which are the preferred DIMM slots to use with 2 sticks.
That's something I haven't looked very closely at yet.
Yeah,
so.
it's right there. So I can see it's going to be the furthest to the edge, and then the third slot are your preferred two.
Yeah, that's always consult your manual, but that's been the case on pretty much every recent board I've ever seen.
And we have Hardly Worgen on Twitch saying, don't 12 and 13th gen motherboards have doubled holes to accommodate old coolers? I don't think it's double the amount of holes. I think the holes are just in the same place.
Yeah, they're the same as each other, and then they're, I assume, splitting the difference between prior holes, but because it's all square, as I was trying to show on the bracket, there's just a little slider so you can get it exactly to the right distance you need with the backplate installation.
Yep.
So I'm going to say this looks correct to me. Now there's going to be some other headers here. So this does need SATA power, I'm guessing, from this.
Oh, Dave is going to show off for a second.
Uh-oh.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, you can let's punch him up to the full screen.
Yeah, I just figured I'd give a quick little nickel tour here. This is the Alienware Aurora R15 that I am currently reviewing, as you can see here. Redesigned chassis a little bit, mostly redesigned, cooling, new, let's flip this up. New 240 millimeter radiator, dual fans there, and yes, that's an RTX 4090 as well. Intel Core i9 13900KF, 13th gen processor, and yeah, it's loaded for bear. So there you go. Coming soon to the HotHardware video channels near you, YouTube, probably Twitch. Who knows? We'll see.
Looks good.
Yeah, I could have gone with a 13700KF in this, but it's not so much that I care about the iGPU itself, though that is handy when you are troubleshooting and just need that extra video output, but also the quick sync video encoder that it includes when you are video editing is nice. Not as important when you're gaming unless you're streaming, but it is a consideration. Okay, so let's get that there. I will have to refresh myself on the power for those in just a bit.
Tim, you're right. I didn't build the Alienware Aurora, but I'm going to take it apart. So I get some cred.
Take it down and put it back together.
So we have a question coming in on YouTube. I'm gonna mispronounce your name. I'm sorry, Kabir. That's I assume that's how to pronounce that. The RM1000X, is it definitely compatible with 4090? And what about the new ATX3 connectors? Have they updated the PSU for those?
So the RM1000X is compatible with the adapter, and I'm going to be using the adapter with this. So Micro Center didn't have any Corsair ATX 3.0 PSUs available. They had an MSI one that I wasn't sure about. I've not used an MSI PSU before. I'm not sure who their ODM is, who built it. So I opted to go with the Corsair, and then I can pick up a cable that will do the direct run for this PSU to the new 12-pin connector. But for today, we're just going to be using the adapter and make sure it's securely connected.
I heard you get better performance if you leave it not quite pushed in and creaked off to the side.
Right. Yeah. So here's the beautiful Trident Z memory.
Nice.
And okay. So some boards I've worked in have just one clip and the other one is fixed. But this is always the most nerve-wracking part of the build.
Piece of cake.
Yeah, this one actually clips in quite easy. And we'll bring the next one. So again, I'm skipping a slot to get the dual channel. And we'll do that there. So now this kit, I assume, gets its RGB straight through the motherboard. The last time I actually installed RGB RAM was back when you still needed the connector that went to the RGB header on the motherboard. So
yeah, it's probably not addressable, right? It's just going to cycle through colors, or is it addressable?
Probably not, but with my interest in RGB, I'm just going to set it to something and leave it. So we'll figure that out when we get there. So we've got the CPU in, we have the RAM in. So now let's go. Looks like it'll be here for our M.2 slot. And I'll grab a screwdriver.
How many slots on that board? 3?
For M.2 or PCIe?
M.2. Are you not you're not going to go with the one above the graphics slot? That's the one probably hanging off the CPU.
One. Okay. Yeah, it's the 2 M.2 slots.
Gotcha.
As you can tell, I didn't research the layout or anything going into this so that it could be more entertaining on stream.
You're very impressive with that little screwdriver, Chris. I'm really digging it.
That's how you use it. All right. So here, this does have the Quick Connects already installed. So the third one that was in the box, I've now moved over here. I'm pointing to the right place on the board. Let's just bring that.
I'm gonna just ask you a straight up question that Tim just asked over on Twitch. He said, "Why did you choose the i7 over an i9 for this build?"
Yep. So the i7 versus i9 choice was primarily so that I could justify putting more money into the GPU. I think for higher resolution gaming in particular, the kind of stuff you're going to be doing with the 4090, your choice of CPU is less impactful. The i9 would give more efficiency cores and more raw, multi-threaded prowess. But the other consideration with that is it does draw quite a bit more power as well. And I know there's a 4090 here, but I want to be somewhat cognizant of total power consumption as well. Now, when it comes to how much energy is burned for a particular task and all of that, that's another exercise to explore. But we will cover that another day. So it's more that I didn't feel for this particular build that the little bit of extra premium for the Core i9 was quite warranted. So bring that in. So that's clipped in. Nice and toolless.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but what's the core count difference? Is it only 2 fewer cores, or is it more than that?
I think it's a total core count of. I think it's 8 and 8 versus 8 and 16.
I'll take a look. That's it. 12700K.
Yeah, 13700K.
Oh, 13700K. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 8 and 8. 8 performance cores, 8 efficiency cores.
All right, so it's got 8 fewer efficiency cores, right? Yeah. So there's 16 on the right. 13900.
Exactly.
Yep.
I don't remember.
So.
Yeah, for gaming, it's going to be right there.
Yeah, for gaming, not too troubled by that. And I am coming from a Core i7 8700K, which is 6 cores, 12 threads, and using the older architecture from Cable Lake. So this is already a huge upgrade in that regard for me. Okay, so
8700K was a good chip, though.
it was a
I'd
good
say.
chip.
Yeah.
And it has served me well, but we're now, I don't know how many years on. So, all right, we've got that. So CPU, RAM. Because this has the iGPU, I think I'm going to bring out the power now. I'm not going to quite get to the 4090 just yet, and make sure we can post and then bring that in. I'm mostly worried about tipping with the 4090 on the box. So
I'm just gonna read a comment. It's not a question. Hardly Worgen over on Twitch. He says he feels the same about RGB. He's got IQ is configured to keep everything off until the CPU crosses a temperature threshold. If the system lights up red, he knows it's a problem. Kind of like an idiot light for the car dashboard. That's actually a good way to do it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's also, suggesting that I would be observant enough to notice that the system next to me has lit up red. That's another matter. Okay, so we have our power cable and set that back here. Nice thing I did with this bench is I took this power strip for more, garage or industrial applications and mounted it above my desk for testing, so I don't have to bend down and reach for stuff. Probably drives Dave crazy that it's in all the photos, but I don't care.
Nah, all good.
All right, lots of good crinkle noise there. Too many cables.
Why don't you throw some cables directly at the motherboard so you can knock some components off?
Yeah. So all kinds of choices with this. We'll dig through and try to find our 24 pin.
So that PSU is full modular. There's
Yes.
Even the big one's not attached. Nice.
Yep. So just what we need. So we'll go ahead and connect this and see how much of a pain it is. That actually wasn't too bad. And I think that's fully clipped. Okay, so we've got that. We'll need to find the CPU power. So that's PCI Express. That's some SATA, Molex.
It's so funny, like looking at a modern build, it's so much cleaner than back in the day. When Dave and I were, when HotHardware was in its early stages,
even we were folding IDE cables.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had would have been Windows 95 PC, Pentium 3, and just stuffed full of ribbon cables. Took that apart.
You just reminded me. I have it in the car. I wonder if I should disappear for a second. I've unfortunately started cleaning out my parents' home, and I found a Voodoo 1, a Voodoo 2, a Voodoo Banshee with SG RAM, so one of the rarer Banshees, and a prototype S3 Chrome board, one of the first PCI Express S3 graphics cards. They're sitting in my trunk right now. Though. I think I'm gonna send them to Tuwan. As much as it's gonna hurt me to part with this stuff, like it's been in a drawer for 18 years since I lived in my house over here. What am I doing?
I understand.
Yep.
Okay, so it's got two CPU cables.
Does that board take two EPS 12-volt connectors? There's two up in the corner.
Yeah, two 8-pins. Yep.
Just for everyone that's watching, if you haven't built one of these before, you can usually get by with one, even if the motherboard has two. The second one is to spread the load if you're going to do overclocking and stuff.
Yep. It doesn't hurt to have the second in place. I'm actually just going to take the camera off for a second to show. Yeah. See if I can do this without dropping anything. So just over here.
That's going to be tight in the case. Yep.
Yeah. So the two headers.
So Hardly Worgen is telling me to eBay that stuff. A collector will want it. Definitely, but Actually, now that I think
But
about it,
too
I did
long.
pay for that stuff. That was before I was reviewing hardware, so I did buy that with my own money. I think the first 3DFX card that I reviewed was the Voodoo 5. Even when I was writing for voodoo3.net, I bought those first cards. The tech press was still the wild, wild west back then.
Yep. And these are labeling on the PSU side, right?
Now, is the because you reviewed the cooler already, are all the fans already mounted and stuff, or you got to still do that?
I disassembled so that it could go back in the box.
Gotcha.
But for a quick blip test here,
Yeah, you'd be fine.
it'll be fine. All right, so we've got those. Let's bring out the power supply itself. So they've got silent operation warning on the back here. So under a particular temperature, the fan will not spin up, so we cannot use that as an indicator of power. But it means it will be
Is
quieter
there
sitting next to me.
a postcode reporter on that motherboard?
I don't see.
Okay. I'm
I don't
sure we'll
think
see
I
some
see
lights.
any visible panels. There's some LEDs up here.
Gotcha.
All right.
And is Brittany over your shoulder, or is she working hard?
She is, I think, working on some lectures. She's technically on spring break, but she's not very good at taking a break. So she's writing lectures for her courses. So
Gotcha.
we have the CPU side, which is all nicely labeled,
Nice.
fighting with focus. There we go.
I'm sure the
So-
gray on black on black on black helps.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember on this one if you need to split the CPU rails or not, but I'm going to trust not at this point. I think I actually guessed wrong on these. So these need a thinner connector on the PSU side, but they're apparently pin compatible. So we'll just switch these around. So that was the actual clip on this is wider for the side that goes into the board.
And the side that goes into the board, where you can split it into two 4x4, right?
Yeah, now that I'm looking closer,
Yeah.
I suppose you could.
Yep.
So, but that does key you, so you can't do it the wrong way.
Dave could mess it up. Dave would mess it up.
Uh-huh. Okay, so then we'll bring this here. So there's two separate splits on the for the 24 pin. So that'll just go right here where it's labeled motherboard and here. And then
I'll
I
let
want
you
to flip
know
this around.
that I've forgotten more about PC building than you've ever learned.
Mhm.
Somehow I keep forgetting it though.
Me too. So again, our pump doesn't have any power right now, but we're just going to do a real quick test. So let me, and you'd think I would learn after all these years if O or I is the on side. I think it's I.
Are you going to plug in a display, or not sweating it for now?
I'm just going to see if the board lights up at all.
Gotcha.
So if you don't know this trick, down here you can come to the JFP where the power pins are, and you can just typically short those and get some
And
light.
I see a green light.
It did light up. There's our RAM. We have PSU fan spin. Shout out Louis Rossman. So, in the interest of not cooking it, is that going to shut down? Nope, just go it this way.
Easier that way.
Chris,
So-
why don't you just rub your stocking feet on the floor and touch a few things?
Uh-huh.
You want to hear a crazy story? Years ago, I used to work for a small software company where we had to maintain basically every operating system and machines of different eras because we were doing UI testing and tech support for educational software. And one of the machines wasn't acting right. So I opened it up and it was all dusty and messy inside. And I said, you know what, let me reseat this RAM. So I pulled the RAM out, covered in dust. I rubbed it across the carpet just to clean it. And then I put it right back in. And it worked fine.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
it's really, really difficult to actually kill components. Like there basically has to be a defect or a really bad short in another matter to do damage.
Oh, wait, Chris, important question. Are you wearing a wrist strap?
I am not wearing the nerd bracelet today. That's
kidding.
another thing that is somewhere around. But
I have never worn one building a system in 30 years building computers.
You know, and it's funny. I've built and upgraded on camera many times, as you know, Marco and Chris, and YouTube and whatever. And if I don't wear surgical gloves and show my wrist strap, I get inundated in the comments by the trolls that say you're gonna burn everything up.
yeah,
And it's
well,
kind of just not true. But you're on a anti-static mat there, I see.
I am on an anesthetic mat, and there is a clip here where I could put the bracelet if I wanted to. But
Attaboy.
this is my money, and I'm going to build it how I want to. So
There you
yeah,
go.
this is not sponsored in any way by anyone. The only thing that's not really mine is the cooler, which is probably going to get replaced soon enough anyways. They just didn't have any 280 stock in at the Micro Center was really the reason behind that. So if anyone wants to get on my case about the anti-static protection, they can pay for my parts. All right, so I'm just looking for a USB header, which is part of the cooler. Trying to see where any are. So there's USB 3 up front.
Probably right at the
Yeah.
bottom there, right in the middle at the bottom.
J USB. There we are. So we'll figure out how to run this better later, but at least there, so I remember to do it. Now I'm thinking I don't actually need to connect the rest of this, if I remember right.
I think there's a SATA connector you have to connect though.
Okay.
That might be for the lights, but I think that's just the one thing on the cooler that might need to be connected.
All right. So I'm going to clear myself some space, and we'll break out the chassis. I'm going to disconnect each of these.
Paw Diddy, I don't think that's exactly true, but he does play a lot of Destiny too. I will say that.
Tim
Is
is
what
saying
true?
you're gonna stream Destiny 2 for 12 hours after the build to test stability.
I mean, I might. I've still got to catch up on the campaign, so unfortunately, I've
Brittany
been
heckling
working.
you?
No, that's Sophie.
No,
Oh, that's Sophie.
yeah, that's Marco's
Hey,
side.
Sophie, come here.
No.
Come in here,
No,
Come on.
Jesus.
please.
Come say hi.
I want you to see what Chris is doing. All right, fine. She's not coming.
Okay. So I'm
and
just
I
gonna set
see her
this over
sister
here.
walking next door.
Hang on.
That seems nice and small and light.
It's not too bad.
just
So
kidding.
this is the 4000D. It's a little smaller than the 5000D, but we did check, and allegedly it should fit this exact model of 4090 with some room to spare. So
Wanna check it
hopefully
out
the
now.
internet has not lied to me.
Now there's two versions of these, right? There's ones with the glass front and ones with the airflow fronts.
I believe so, yes. So this is the airflow version.
Gotcha.
Because again, I'm caring a little more about the performance than aesthetics.
So I'm going to pose a question. You said
Mm-hmm.
earlier that you want to put the cooler up top in the case.
Yes.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't put it out front, since that case has the room, and just put a third fan underneath?
So it does have the room for that. I think it's generally best for the pump to have the pump at the lowest possible place in the loop to prevent air from bubbling through. And the easiest way to do that is to top mount your radiator so that the radiator's up top, the pump is at the CPU below, and you have minimal risk of burning out the pump.
Gotcha.
When you install it in the front, it's usually just fine, because as long as you have your radiator installed to the top as much as you can, some people will install it in the bottom too. And in that case, there can be a risk of starving your pump. I don't know how common that really is.
The other mistake people make too is if you mount it in the front, you want to try to get the tubing on the bottom of the radiator. Most of the time it's okay, but as you build bubbles, you can end up with an air gap in the top, and then it'll stall out and the water doesn't flow well. So if your case will accommodate, make sure the tubing is coming out of the bottom part if it's mounted to the front.
Yeah, so we're going to follow best practice here. Now, performance-wise, I don't think there's any real significant difference in cooling between a front mount, which, you know, theoretically is bringing in cooler air to the CPU. Your CPU temps might be a degree or two cooler versus a top mount, where it's acting as exhaust. And so then you've got potentially warm system air, especially from a GPU like the 4090, that is maybe reducing the cooling performance of your CPU. But I don't think it's enough of a difference that I'm concerned for my particular applications. If you're pushing a really intense overclock, I just realized I was robbing the view. There you go, a little clean.
Ooh, nice. And you got the ASUS Tough 4090, right?
It is the Tough OC, yes.
Okay, so there's only back fan is going to pass through on that cooler. The other two, it's just going to circulate. Yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah, it's not something that I'm that caught up about. So I'm going to remove this dust filter up top just for a moment, and let's bring the camera back a bit to get a
Chris,
better.
This case comes in white as well. Why didn't you go with the white?
It does.
You like the black?
So I really like the white builds, but most of my office aesthetic is this kind of cherry and black. So if I were to do a white build, I would want to really go all out with white everything, and probably have something like a navy blue accent in there. I think that's beyond the budget of what I wanted to go with for this build. So maybe in a future build, I'll go that way. But for right now, I think this is just a little better for my current office aesthetic.
So plus the black matches Tim's heart.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other thing on this particular case is you have up on the screen there, that little bit of gray accent, it does irk me a little bit. I like, if it's going to be white, I want it all white. Nice.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
All right, we got an LOL from him. I didn't scare him off.
Uh-huh.
Tim's
you better not scare him off. We need him to write. Okay, so
Chris, do you know what you're doing?
Nope, not captive. I have not worked with this chassis before, so no. So some of these will have some pins. I'm just trying to not shatter the glass. So yeah, I thought these would be captive screws, and I guess they can be, but they're not super. Probably a slide. No? Are they going to make me RTFM?
I'm going to try to go look it up for you.
Gives you high pop.
It looks like it should slide back, but there's
I'm watching a Corsair video right now.
Yeah, I think more of it slides back than I expected. Yeah, I don't want to get my fingerprints all over the glass.
So it pull it forward away from the chassis.
Not towards the back?
Nope, just pull it forward, like off.
Okay. There we go. All right, so there is more cling wrap on the back side, but I will wait to remove that for now, just so I don't mess it up and have more I need to clean. So let's set this down for the moment. So
those are nice.
I'm thinking I may need to unmount the cooler, get it installed.
It'd probably be less gangly unless you just do the
Yeah.
motherboard first and have it hanging over the side.
Not a big deal. I've got plenty of paste.
And then you can see how well it's spread. Good test, actually.
So actually, it looks like I went a little conservative, if anything.
No full coverage.
So here's the spot on the block. Now, granted, I didn't torque this down either.
You just finger tightened?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Let me clear this off.
Well, now you can do the Marco method. Just kind of smush that in before you repaste it.
Mm-hmm. Actually, this is... Yeah, I might just mudge that around and add another dab.
Chris, if it doesn't work, you have only one person to blame. Well, all right, maybe Marco too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with the fans, obviously they're going to pull air one way, not the other. So I think these have arrows. So on here you can see there's a little arrow that shows the, if I can get it close enough, that shows the direction of the air basically pulling through here.
Yeah,
So
the air always blows towards the frame. So there'll always be a frame on the backside.
There is that as well. So I'm
That's
going
what
to
she
put
said.
these on the bottom of the radiator so that when this is inverted in the case, it'll pull air through the case, up through the rad, and out the top.
Cool. So, Sophia,
Yeah, we need
Come in
Sophia
here.
to come over here and help Chris with this.
Sophie,
Mhm.
please come in
Needs a little
here.
color commentary.
Sophie, please. You're so mean to me.
And so one small thing, actually, before I get too far, is figuring out which way I want the cables to run to have minimal excess. So I think I want to rotate this around 90.
You're gonna go behind the tray.
Yeah, I'm going to try. So I think out this backside. If not, I'll fix it later.
Hardly Worgen is correcting me. Says reverse blade PC fans do exist for people that don't want to see the frames. That's true, but the vast majority of bundled stuff or stuff that's
Mhm.
pre-installed, like almost all the time, it will blow towards the frame. I should have qualified it. Thank you.
That's one of those except when it doesn't kind of things.
Right. Okay, so we'll run that here. Line this one up the same for now. Again, I'll probably build and rebuild this a few times before I actually settle in with it as I tweak things here and there, but I don't want to keep you guys too long either. So each of these screws does have a little washer just to help sit a little better. Marco laughing always makes me nervous.
No, I couldn't say that one out loud. I had to stop myself.
That doesn't help.
Okay, set. No power tools, Chris.
I don't like to.
Yeah, me neither.
Just give it a little bit of hand torque, but not a lot.
Come on, you need the magnetic bit screwdriver with the clutch induced power drill to really drive those suckers home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a
wall screw.
No, I'm a manual screw guy too.
Yeah, I was kidding. This kind of stuff especially, but there's a few things you can zip here and there.
Yeah.
But
Well, whenever you're dealing with plastic, even with, the whatever they call it on
The clutches.
the power drills,
Yeah.
they'll still strip right through it. Okay, so that part, and then I think the other screws send in from the top. So there's a shorter screw here. I'll need at least 4 to hold it.
You're not just going to zip tie it to the top? You're actually going to screw it in?
I will actually screw it in.
come on, some
Since
rubber
people are
band, maybe?
watching.
Come on. They do make electric drivers exactly for this, though, for PC building, and they're more delicate. They're designed for it. They're smaller. That does. They do exist. I'll have to find one.
Yeah, like dealing with the charging and the bits, blah blah. It's just have some screwdrivers handy.
Come on, you don't want to hack it up like me, man.
No,
No.
no.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So this isn't the most flexible tube in the world, and I'm pretty sure the way it needs to go to actually sit is to have the loop towards the front here.
Looks like you got some decent sized slots on there, so you got some leeway to kind of play with it.
Yeah, so we're going to bring this as much to the front as we can. So this case fits up to the 280 up top. If you have a 360, which I do have one down on the floor over there also from this review, in case this one has issues. The 360 does need to go in the front.
So this is Lane, I think. Flying Mongoose is Lane, right? It says the best tool in his repertoire is a headlamp. I tend to agree, although I hate wearing it because my hair is so freaking thin. Anything I pull over my head, I look like the big urn from Kingpin.
Hang on, I got a couple of interesting things to share here.
Uh-oh.
I'll drop this in.
Uh-oh.
This is something that, let me try and share this on screen. Show screen, window. Okay.
And this is how you know we're not massive on YouTube yet. We're not using the Linus Tech Tip screwdriver. And
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So
This
this
is
looks like
my
a really
dollar
nice,
store special.
yeah, there you go.
nice.
You know, my philosophy is you buy it once, and if it breaks, then you buy something nice. And
Now
so far, this has not broke.
Oh, that's actually cool with that attachment.
There you go.
Really?
This
Oh,
is an
wow.
interesting one. Has an attachment. Has a bunch
But
of
it's so bulky.
all-in-one kit for $30. That's pretty good.
And the name sounds Italian, so I automatically like it.
All right, Papulo. Hey,
Papulo.
that's very nice.
Charge it to Papulo. Now, how the hell did you just do that picture-in-picture? It wasn't working for me before. Is that because you're sharing a screen as well?
Yeah, I just shared my screen on StreamYard.
Yeah,
The old StreamYard platform, folks. That's what we're using here. StreamYard. Good stuff.
Yep. As much as I love OBS, StreamYard does make this kind of thing very easy.
Yep.
And
The multi-stream. So we're streaming out to YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn, maybe
yes,
Twitter.
sir. Yep. And LinkedIn all at the same time if we like.
I think we skipped LinkedIn for today.
We
but
did
yes,
skip
Did
LinkedIn
we?
for this, yeah. All right, let me
Marco
share
doesn't think I'm a professional.
another feature here. Boom. There you go. This is what Lane says. The old headlamp can come in handy for the dark, tight spaces of PC building. There you go.
And that is
or I
listed
can
in the janitorial and sanitation section of Amazon.
Okay,
I'm
so
going
I'm
to
just
drop
going to
a
loosen
link
these up
for
a bit,
that too.
and I'm going to slide this forward just a touch.
Do you want to see if you have clearance over the front fan? Did you see if a fan's going to fit
Oh yeah,
behind it?
there's going to
You
be
got it.
plenty of clearance for the fans to get in.
Gotcha.
So that'll be the next step. So most of PC building is very little to do with the components that are fun to put in, because those click together in 2 seconds and you're done. It's all the other meticulous routing and everything else that takes up the time. Let me get this box out of the way.
Yeah, if you're a first-time builder, the hardest part is picking out the parts.
Yes.
Actually assembling it is way easier than the agonizing task of figuring out what works with what and what motherboards you need, et cetera, et cetera. But
Right.
that's where
And until
HotHardware
you're-
comes in.
Yeah, definitely look at the reviews and see what goes with what. Marco, especially with the CPU reviews, is always really good about calling out the different motherboards and stuff, especially on a new socket launch of what's compatible, and the different features like the number of M.2 slots and things like that. There's also tools you can find online that'll do part comparisons, but sometimes with the latest cutting edge hardware, it's not always, day one ready to go, but most of the time it's pretty good.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got that. So yeah, for some reason, I don't fully understand is they only put one fan in the front for this case. So looks like I actually need to come through the front side to remove it. So this just pops off here for the front panel. And this is metal. I was surprised. It does look kind of plastic, but it is metal. And then there's a dust filter, so you can get in and clean this.
Oh, I actually like that. It's so easy.
Yeah. Oh, there's a handle up here if I had been paying more attention. And so, yeah, so you can clean this regularly and not have the dust gunk up your system. So we'll go down here. So the trick I'm going to be using also for dust is a positive pressure setup. So that's going to have hopefully more air coming in the front than is exhausting. And that basically makes it so that all the other cracks and openings in the chassis, air is coming out of them and not drawing dust in. Because otherwise you can have little nooks that bring dust into the case.
That's actually the most important thing to keep your system dust free. I mean, assuming you have dust filters, the best thing to do is have positive pressure. Otherwise, it sucks in dust through all the cracks where you have no filters.
Right. So, and you can manage that even though I'll technically have as many fans coming out as coming in. So I'll have 3 in the front, and I'll have 3 exhausting, which is 2 140s and a 120. You can set the intake to draw in more air, just run at a slightly higher speed, and still maintain that positive pressure.
Yeah.
So with this, same thing, has the indicator, but yeah, again, drawing air towards the frame. These were the same price as the 120s, so I thought, why not go with the 140? I like the larger fans because you can run them a little bit quieter. And so...
Is the pre-installed fan at the back a 120 or a 140?
It is a 120.
So you're good anyway then. Yeah, so you're 120 and 2 140s.
Should be close. There's yay much difference between the back and this fan. So we'll just slide this in here. So one thing with these fans, because they're not the most ultra premium fans, is they don't have rubber dampeners, which can be nice to really eliminate noise. Because fans will rattle no matter how nice they are. Making sure I'm not cross-threading. Any more comments or questions from the chat?
Yeah, I'm actually looking up a case. I think it was listed differently. I think.
What's the case name?
Oh, wow. So, sorry. Hardly Worgen has a comment here saying he's still using an Antec 302. The only time he wanted more space is when I could not feed the CPU power behind. So I was looking up 302, and it looks like Antec actually lists it as 302 spelled out, not actually 302. I think we built a giveaway system in an Antec 302 years ago, because I'm pretty sure I did a build in one of those.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a modern case with space, there's like the Lee & Lee 011D variants. There's the Height Y60. That's also like they're a wider chassis. So you've got more in the back for cable management and stuff. I know EK with their Fluid Gaming PC, they were using the 011D, some custom variant of it and they took the front panel and put the reservoir there. You can find the review for that. I think it was a really slick looking system with all straight pipe liquid cooling. I much prefer a smaller footprint for my own chassis because I've got to live with it next to me on my desk, and I don't like it eating up a ton of space. So I like a more traditional type shape on a mid tower, and I don't want it to be too big. I could have gone with the 5000D. I think I would have added a few inches, and this isn't what I wanted.
Yep.
But for people with the space, why not?
My previous, actually, was it my previous build or the one before? I'm a pack rat. I don't part with anything. So about, 10 feet to my right are some old systems that I've just been decommissioned. I have one is a Cooler Master Cosmos 2, absolutely giant case. And next to it was my dual Xeon EVGA SR2 build from ages ago. I don't even remember what model Lee & Lee case it is, but it's a big, it was one of the few EATX cases available at that time.
Yeah, so now I'm realizing the support page says this supports 3 140s up front. But I'm having my doubts right now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I can take the bottom screws out of this and just drop it down a bit, and not have the bottom or tap fan fully secured.
Let's go look.
All right, we did look it up in the store.
Let's see. I am looking. I don't. Yeah, no, it's only going to do 2 140 fans at the front. It could do a 360 mil rad, but only 2 140 mil fans at the front.
Okay. Yeah, I'll live with that.
Oh, good. These are the things that come up all the time.
Yep. You can only put so much weight into spec pages because they're often written by people who don't actually have familiarity with the product, and they're transposing from something else and earlier revisions, and until you have it in hand. It's the same reason, like the sites that'll help you choose parts and stuff, they'll often list clearances in there that may not be accurate. Like this one, even with the 4090, I did find a photo of someone who had built with the 4000D and that exact 4090, and I could see, maybe 20 millimeters or so towards the front fans, but I still have my doubts. So, with that, I'm going to take this fan, keep it at the bottom, and I'm going to move this one up just to fit this cutout a little better.
I wonder if you wanted to hack it, if you could fit a 120 between those two.
If you want
to pull a Dave.
Hey, enough with the Dave. Chris, that's actually a nice and compact mid tower.
Yeah, it's a really good size.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna share a screen quick because I absolutely love this case. Give me 1 second. I wonder if you saw it live. If you have an opinion, let me just get this window shrunk down a little bit, and let's make sure that I don't destroy the stream here.
Just tell me it's not going to be another Hello Kitty special.
No, it is not. It is this absolutely gorgeous. So I guess if I do this, nope, wrong one. How the heck do I share this? Oh, I got to add it to the stream.
Yep.
And now I can share it. I think.
Did you add the stream? Click the.
There we go. Okay. This case is gorgeous. The Fractal Design North. Did you see it there?
Yeah, that is nice.
There were a lot of cases. I don't know if I saw that one specifically, but I have seen it in general.
I love that.
And it is really nice looking.
You like the tasty wood?
So you know what it is? The black one reminds me of an old Atari VCS.
It does.
Right?
If I could get that in black with an exact finish to match my desk, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But the white one is just pretty.
Man, the white is sharp. Yeah,
it's really nice. All right, let me stop sharing.
Okay, no, it's not Hello Kitty. You get a pass. I'm going to share that case. They have a couple of very interesting ones. This is the one you just showed. Let me send an Amazon page for that. And then they also have this one, which is kind of cool. Boy, the Fractal people, they didn't sponsor this either, by the way. But I'm going to add this to the stream too because I just see this. This is pretty cool. All right, so let's share.
There's nothing like a build to get you thinking about your own systems.
Look at this bad boy. That's kind of cool, huh?
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, another Fractal Design special.
I've got a small quandary. So I was using the screws that came with the 120 to affix the 140 down here. The screws that actually came with these 140 fans are just narrow enough that they basically slip through these slots.
Oh, that stinks. Yeah.
So I need to come up with a washer or something, but I think I can worry about installing that later.
Do you have just a couple to hold them in for now?
Yeah, I might go 2 and 2 just to have it in place.
I'm gonna show everybody the case Dave is using for his next build. This is what Dave is going to use for his next build. Let me just add it to the stream. There it is.
Yeah, baby.
That's actually pretty cool.
I am the pink
Yeah, is that
transformer type. I
the?
must admit.
That's the thermal take, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty. It looks like a little robot.
Look at it. Yeah, it like your daughter would love that probably.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm trying to remember at CES there was a company showing off a bunch of chassis with like character designs for children. I'm trying.
Yeah, we had an article
wanna
on
say
that.
the wrong
I'll go
company.
find it. I'm
There
gonna
was
go
like a
look because I
monster
think.
design, and
Yeah,
I thought those
let
were
me go
really
find
cute.
it.
Meanwhile, I will
find it.
show everybody what I am actually going to build. Hang on 30 seconds. I'm getting there.
a little MG action.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay.
See, even stuff like this comes up where you have the screws that are for the fans and for the case for a compatibility check that no one's ever gonna think about. Doesn't quite work.
Yep, I know the pain very well.
So here is the main gear MG1, and as you can see there, also a nice little mid-tower case, 240 or maybe 280 mil radiator up top. And as you can see here, they actually do some nice custom front panel action. And let me see if I can. I'm going to remove this from the stream, and then I'm going to pull up what our front panel is going to look like. We're going to build this live with the guys at Main Gear. It's going to be a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D 16 core with 3D V cache build. It's going to be an all AMD build, actually. So hang on one sec. Let me go show you the front panel though.
Yeah, I was quite tempted to go all AMD, but if I was going to go AMD, I'd probably want to go with the 5800X 3D, which isn't quite out yet. And
The 7800.
7800. Too many numbers floating around my head, which isn't quite out yet. And I only get so many opportunities to go to Cincinnati and get to the Micro Center, which I know I can order stuff online, but it's just a different experience to do it in store, get it all at once, and come home and build. So
Micro Center is a cool store. I'm lucky enough to have one local, and it's like an Amazon warehouse full of PC parts that you can actually walk through. It's really a cool store.
Yeah. It's the Disneyland for us nerds.
Here's the Main Gear MG1 review that Zach Killian did for us from our team.
Mm-hmm.
A mighty beautiful boutique gaming PC. So it's going to look a little like this, but as you can see, the HotHardware custom logo front panel, which is kind of slick. So something like that in an AMD build will be happening soon.
And going back to our previous conversation, the company that had those monster cases here, let me add it to the stream. It was InWin.
I thought it was InWin, but I didn't want to say the wrong company.
Look at those babies.
They're cool, right?
They're really neat.
Case monsters.
Monster case. Yeah. Oh, that's a cool
That's
one.
fun. Yeah.
I think
stuff.
you should build one with Izzy and Sophie.
Yeah, Sophie
You
did
know,
that.
I want to. It's like they would be psyched for about 10 minutes. And then once they had to tighten some screws, it'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this.
Okay. So in the back here, the other nice thing about this case is it does have these cable management runs with the straps, very well tooled. There's additional
Very nice.
drive bays back here. So you can fit, 2 traditional hard drives. And I'm just going to pull this out because it has some extra.
Oh, maybe you get
tooling
lucky.
seams in there.
There's fan screws in there.
Maybe.
You know, when I was coming up, we didn't have drive bays or cable gathers or none of that fancy stuff. We use electric drills and rubber bands and a paper bag with a CPU. It was great. No.
So
No,
there's
that's good
also
stuff.
a bit of foam here, which
Yeah.
I'm sure is just for packing purposes.
Well put together there. Yeah.
If it hadn't been visible for the front, I might keep it there for some sound dampening, but it does show through the mesh, so it's got to go. So, yeah, nice little quick release drive bays. If I didn't have my NAS, I could move my 16 terabyte drives in there and just have it as local storage. But I like the ease of flexibility of having a NAS and being able to pull it up from a laptop or any other device, especially when we're testing different hardware. I can quickly load all my applications used for benchmarking and stuff. So could do that built into the computer, but I'd rather just keep it out there. Besides, those drives, they're the Western Digital Reds, and they are quite loud, is a consideration to have with that capacity. But if they're in the other room, who cares?
I'm sorry to interrupt. So Lane was saying Dave used to use a graphite pencil to overclock.
He's not wrong.
Not only that's true, but I'm really gonna go old school and see if even Dave remembers this.
Oh, the Jeff Booten adapter.
Yeah. Don't give it away. Don't give it away.
Oh, sorry.
So if you have been around a long time, you might have remembered that there was, one stage of Athlon overclocking where you had to wrap pins underneath the CPU to overclock. One of our former writers was the inventor of the speed strip. So this was a little tiny strip of plastic, and you can sort of see it here. There was a conductive material between two pinholes, and you slid this under the CPU, and it allowed you to overclock certain Athlons way back in the day. So, fun fact, that was a HotHardware writer that invented the speed strip.
And I can't remember, that must have been thermally conductive because it's under the CPU.
Well, electrically conductive, but thermally it had no effect because the die is on the top of those chips.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm sorry. It's in the pin grid area. Duh.
Yep. Wow, people still have their reviews up of this thing.
Nice.
I'm gonna share one more picture of it. Hold on.
There we go. That's some old
All
school
right,
goodness.
So what
right
do you
there.
think? Should I mount the
Go
power
ahead.
supply the way they intend, or upside down like this? My thought being, if I have it installed quote unquote correctly, the fans are facing upwards into the chassis, dealing with that all that air. Whereas on the bottom, there is a mesh below this, and I can just intake clean air in the bottom.
Yeah. Fan towards the bottom, definitely, no question.
Oh, there is a dust filter here. Okay.
Yeah.
That was my only other consideration, is if it was filtered, but it is. So I will go with that. Let's see.
I'm gonna adding this to the stream. So Lane, this is how it looked. The speed strip was installed under the CPU, and it made contact with the correct pins.
All right, so there is a bunch of screws in the magic box. Are they the right ones? Not these, I don't think.
That stinks.
Or at least these aren't tapered.
Oh, those will work. No,
You think so?
I don't know. Actually, I can't tell. They look like
Or
they're
you have it in the
self-tapping plastic screws, though. No.
It looks that way, but the bottom of the head isn't angled like the ones already in place were. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
I'm going to have another small interlude here. Give you a quick taste of a little video production I'm working on right now.
Uh-oh.
Should start charging you for these interludes.
Hang on 1 second. Oh, there we go.
All right.
Ready? Hang on, Chris. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Look at that pan, baby. So this is the front intake of the Alienware Aurora R15. And as you can see, it's got this honeycomb grill now that allows more airflow through the front of the case. Because they were choking it off on the previous design, so it's a little bit better. Chris, you may remember the previous design of the Aurora.
Yeah, I've actually, that's the previous design that I'm using here. Forgive the desk disaster as I'm building, but this is the I think the R10 with the all AMD build.
Yeah, and as you can see, that that whole front shroud is fairly blocked off, and the air intake is just around the center area. But now they've opened that all up with a honeycomb grid, which is nice and rigid. That honeycomb grid of plastic is nice and rigid just because of the design of the honeycomb, and it also lets airflow in.
Yeah, so a much needed refresh on that, and it seems like it has made a significant improvement for those designs.
Yeah,
guys, I hate to be a party pooper. I have to run, so I'm going to leave you guys in Chris and Dave's hands.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we had any comments we need to jump through right here that just popped in. Nope.
I'll be here.
So
no one's obligated to stay the whole time. Come and go. We'll be here.
No, stay and like and subscribe and then share it so more people come and help us build a channel because we're cool and it's fun.
Marco's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Exactly. All right, guys, you good?
Very good. Super
All right,
good.
guys, have fun. Chris, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, guys.
Safe travels, Brother Marco.
I should probably show before I drop the motherboard in. One thing that a lot of people make a mistake of when they're building is they don't check for the motherboard standoffs here. It's going to be, let's see if I can brighten this up a bit. So
there you go.
This case has the standoffs pre-installed here. And there's a nice little post in the middle that you don't actually put a screw in that helps align everything. If those standoffs aren't installed, you are literally shorting your motherboard out, and you can, and I have often seen killed motherboards just because it's not lined up. Usually the big clue as you're installing is when you're putting in the IO shield area here, the motherboard isn't lined up and you're kind of like jiggling with it to try and get it in place. Like always look to make sure that these little standoffs are in there and that you're using them. Now with this motherboard, the IO shield is the newer style where it's integrated on. There's no separate installation of that. That makes the installation pretty easy. But a lot of the more budget-oriented motherboards in particular are less likely to have those kinds of creature comforts installed. So all I'm going to do here is bring in the motherboard and line it up as best I can.
Yeah, and Chris, those standoffs for the motherboard that are installed in the case, folks, obviously make sure what's in there lines up properly with your motherboard and that it lines up on sites that are intended for screw mounting and won't short.
Right. Yeah, depending on the size of your motherboard. So I've just learned another thing, and that is that the liquid cooler is going to have to go in second.
Yeah. Can't clear it. Yeah.
Typically, in cases that have a little more clearance at the bottom without a PSU shroud or even just a larger chassis, you can just sneak it down and under. But in this case, there's just not enough clearance for that. So we'll bring this up. Take the dust filter off again.
See, this is how you know that this is an organic build because Chris has not been through the pitfalls of this particular case. Yeah.
And for me, like I find the process of building and figuring out the stuff and using the instructions as little as possible fun. I like puzzles and stuff, so
amen.
You know, I find it come across these things that are maybe not intuitive. Like you think, okay, get the cooler in, get it out of the way, build around it, because these can be clunky. But sometimes you backtrack.
But it's an easy, couple of 2-3 screws, and that thing comes
Right.
out.
And this is, for many people, an argument in favor of getting a pre-built like the Alienware you're looking at there, because someone else is dealing with that hassle. But if you like the learning experience and you're not just looking to get a computer to game, then I highly, highly recommend experiencing a build for yourself. Now, if this were an air cooler, things would be a lot simpler. Just put on the tower, stick it in, no problem. Liquid cooling requires a little more planning, but I think it's very far from insurmountable for most builders to conquer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the nice thing is, when you build it yourself too, you know how it's put together. You can troubleshoot it if something goes awry down the road. You can upgrade easier. It's just, It's your baby.
Never be afraid to undo progress to get to where you need to be.
There you go. Motherboard going in. Chris deftly handling it by the many connector power.
It's distributing the weight.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so here,
string.
I bring the camera in again, and so right here you can just barely see this post sticking through. So normally this would be a screw hole, but here it's just a post to help align. I really like that feature. I find it helpful when building just to make sure everything lines up more easily, because otherwise, without that post, you're just on those standoffs, and the board can slide around, and getting that first screw in can be a little more difficult. So if you're looking for a good quality case, that is a nice trait to look for. Bring that down
Thoughtful inclusion, yes.
Okay, so then somewhere here I had a baggie of motherboard screws.
For everybody that might be tuning in a little bit on the tardy side, this is HotHardware's YouTube and Twitch and all kinds of video streams here. HotHardware.com, that's where you'll find us on the web. We have been on the web since 1999, if you can believe that, building PCs for that long as well. And Chris here is building a 13th gen Core i7 13700K powered killer gaming rig with a GeForce RTX 4090 on board as well. So good stuff.
And by the way, Dave, if you want to pull up a link to our Discord community, if people have their own builds and want to get feedback or help or planning advice or anything like that.
Why, Chris Topher, that's a great idea. Let me get to that.
So with a standard ATX board like this, there are typically 9 screw positions to look for. I will have 8 because, again, I have that one standoff position with the peg.
And here comes the link to our Discord server. Where Discord.
Let's see if I can get this a little more over the top.
Join us, folks. We are light on the @here notifications, but ever present on the Discord server, so you can engage with us, ask questions, opinions, track our content that's getting published and streamed like you see here. So go for it, Chris. Back to you.
Yep. And if you've got ideas for us as well, or things you'd like us to take a look at, maybe do some myth busting or something like that as well, feel free to pitch us ideas.
Yeah, that's a good point. We are definitely open to suggestions for content that you want to see.
We are in a very fortunate position where we're one of the last truly independent outlets out there. So, there's not a megacorp above us telling us what to say or trying to get us to push a certain line. It's just Dave. So.
I don't know about just Dave, but the team
Oh, yeah.
has the editorial and creative direction at our control completely. You're right.
Okay, so this should be the last screw, but I will do a final count to make sure. So 1 in the top, 2 in the middle, 3 there, 4 on this side, 5 over here, 6 with the peg, 7, 8, and 9. So those are all in place now. And so let's work on some cable routing for a moment, I think.
Now you wish you had Marco here because he is absolutely the cable routing origami king. He builds PCs that they are meticulous, and you could eat off the cable routing. They're so clean.
Yeah, so one case in the camera here is I'll ultimately want to flip this front fan's orientation around. Right now, the only real way to run this out is over the top. I may even take a moment to do that now. This one I can slip out the side pretty easily where it's not going to be seen. It'd be easier if I was looking at what I was doing, but we'll take that through. Yeah, we'll quickly flip that. It's just a couple screws. Okay, so I'm going to run this down and out the bottom, but no one needs to know it's there. Riveting television. Okay, so then I'm going to unhook the 24 pin from the motherboard and run that back through the back. So let's see if we can get you a better angle to see inside.
Was there a reason you had previously attached the 24-pin power connector? Just to lower it into the case?
That was our initial startup, and I didn't fully disconnect it to move in.
Gotcha. You just wanted to boot before you installed.
Yeah. So if I break something now, at least at this point, for these components, I know I've busted it. And then people can make fun of my lack of nerd bracelet.
Okay. Chris is sporting the green and black flannel shirt action.
Mm-hmm. Representing Maine.
Getting a good look at that. Yes, the main colors.
Yes. Okay, so we got that tucked here. I like that sat a little higher, but I'm not going to fight it too much right now. And then these, I think, we can just tuck over the top. You don't want to really crank the bends too much when you have the copper in these. There is a particular bend radius that the cables will be rated for, and something like this is probably fine. But to really like push and wring out every last millimeter, you're probably gonna eventually sever some wires. And when you have power cables like this, pulling high amperage, broken split cables are not what you want. So run those down to the PSU area, and we've got the 24 pin along that line as well. I should go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say on the other side, you flipped it around on me. I was waiting for you to screw in the PSU though too, but
Oh, yeah.
on the other side of the board, you could see, you don't have to flip it around, but you could see that the individual front panel connectors, all those little tiny wires that you have to hook up, the pinhead connectors, had a nice open bottom area below them that you could get all the wires up through easily. So many times you get cases with just a couple of holes down there to poke stuff through.
Those are actually fed through up here and come down this routing in the back. So if I
you'll get to that.
Really take this, I can bring this in that same bundle and come down here, or I can just leave this in the slot down here.
That works.
And for right now, as I'm, again, likely to reconfigure this quite a bit, I'm not going to go super Marco levels of crazy with the cable management, but I'll get there eventually. The other thing is, so no, the power supply is not fully connected yet, and that's in part so that I can more easily access it and get cables connected instead of trying to fight underneath and do it blind.
Yeah, that's often a PC building tip 101 for folks that are more seasoned with it. Screwing everything down and buttoning everything up before you get other things installed and even before you power it on isn't always necessarily the best thing to do. Just lining things up, looking for, does it fit? Does it line up? Do the wires reach? Stuff like that.
Right.
And then you button it down.
Right now I'm seeing with these 8-pin cables, if I have length where I can send them down this track with everything else and reach, and I believe that will. So I'll worry about the other straps later, but right now I know that is an option. But I will leave it loose as I build.
Yeah, that's nice back there too. I like those integrated zip or Velcro ties.
And they include plenty of extra Velcro straps and zip ties, so you can really route it however you like.
Not sponsored by Corsair. Hopefully the folks at Corsair are watching, because that's some Corsair logo action.
Yep. No, it's a very solid, dependable chassis. So
4000D, right? The Corsair 4000D.
4000D airflow, yes. So particularly for first-time builders who want something a little more premium to work with, it's a great option. So I will bring these in, and then I'm just going to consult on this cooler one more time and see if I actually need that SATA connection before I get too far. So here it's showing there will be the SATA, a 3-pin for the fans and pumps, the pump to USB header, and I guess I have to work under the assumption that it does need to be connected. So
Chris with a little RTFM action there. Surprising.
just a little. And just going to weigh my SATA options and see if any of these cables is leaner than another. So sometimes there will be like 2 SATA connectors, 3 or 4. So this is a 4 SATA also for, it looks like they, oh, where are you at the end? So you, oh, you're a 3. So I think this is the one I'm going to run with, just to save a little bit of bulk. And I think once I get that cooler set up, I'll actually be able to make the connection in back so it'll look a little cleaner, and tuck the rest. So down here, the SATA section is all this in the lower left. So I'm just going to choose one.
Simple stuff, but notice Chris is assembling some of the power lines outside of the case so he can actually get at the back of the PSU instead of having to move around and finagle inside the chassis.
And even with that, I think I might just take this drive bay totally out. So there's some thumb screws here to loosen this up. And since I'm not using 3.5-inch drives, I don't need this here. And the choice I have to make is that I can just remove that. I don't need it. It can
Nice.
sit in
More
the box
airflow, more room
until
to work.
someday where I decide I do want it. But
Mhm.
alternatively, I could probably reinstall it after the fact. So let's slide that in. So we've got our SATA. We've got the 24 and the dual 8 pins already connected. And where are my power supply screws? Should probably be a bit more organized than I am right now as well. But I'm also trying to work within confined space of a camera. Oh, there are the washers. Okay, so that's going to be for the cooler.
Getting a good look at the back panel I/O options. Got plenty of USB-C I see back there as well, which is nice.
Yeah, so dual Type Cs. I don't see a Thunderbolt indicator on there, but they are, the top one's rated for 10 gigabit and the bottom is for 20. So nice and speedy, not the full 40 gigabit top of the line, but plenty respectable.
Yeah.
And here are the PSU screws.
Let's go focus. You can do it.
There we go. So
There it is.
nice little pack there. So again, I've installed the power supply technically upside down from how it's intended. And the reason is the fan on the PSU this way comes in from the bottom of the chassis, so it's not bringing in hot air from the case. And so it's its own self-contained air. So it shouldn't influence the rest of the components. The rest of the components shouldn't influence the PSU. And there is a dust filter on the bottom, so we don't have to worry about that.
And you have enough clearance height underneath to get airflow down there?
Yeah, there's probably a solid inch.
Oh, there you go. Plenty.
So no worries.
Chris, I'm going to step away for a minute and leave you to your fun here.
Yeah. Let me just quickly change my screen around so I can actually see the comments.
Yeah, no worries. I'll be here for a little bit. I'll be in and out. I'm just in the studio myself with the Alienware rig. Folks, you're watching HotHardware's live stream. Chris Goetting building a custom killer gaming PC with his own bare hands here live. You can find us at hothardware.com, twitter.com/hothardware, HotHardware Twitch, and of course we're on YouTube, HotHardware. HotHardware.com is where you find us on the web for over 23 years now, believe it or not. Anyways, Chris, I'll let you get back to it.
So I do see Lane Flying Mongoose in the Twitch chat talking about magnetic trays. I do have one. I've just chosen not to use it. But just for you, I'll throw some in the tray for the cooler. Actually, that's for the power supply. That's the last one I need to put in for that. Dave should have told me that you couldn't see what I was doing. So that's all in place now. And what should we do next? So I think the idea is to then mount the cooler again up top. So I'm going to tilt this again on its back as I make some space. Couple of unhappy cables, but they will survive. So we'll look right up there. Bring the cooler in place again for how this is set up. I'm going to be having the tubes come towards the front of the chassis. And should have just enough clearance over the RAM. I will say that is quite tight. Let's turn this. And lower. Whenever you're installing screws like this, yeah, just a little bit of clearance concerns. I'm wondering if maybe we need to defer to the 360 rad in front. What is this? I think these G-Skill RAM modules might just be a hair too tall with the radiator in place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that may have to go up front.
Yeah. So
Well, something to
fine.
be aware of, folks, right?
Yep. Less ideal, but not a deal breaker by any means. So we'll take this screw back out. We'll play Fan Installation Simulator for the 10th time today. And again, you could bypass a lot of these headaches by just getting a larger chassis to begin with. But I like as small a footprint as I can get away with. And sometimes it bites a little bit. So I'll probably end up swapping this for the 360 mil at some point in front, and do the dual 120 fans up top. But we'll go with the 280 for now. Wondering, the only thing that might conflict that I'll test with real quick on that is I was basing this off of just having fans in the front, not a radiator as well. So before we get too crazy, let's just do a quick test fit. So let's zoom this out. Well packed with the foam. It's just unbelievable what a monster the 4090s are. I know Nathan Ord, another one of our writers, has been wanting to get his hands on a Founders Edition 4090 to use in a even smaller, small form factor chassis. And as much patience as I have for builds, I don't know if I have quite that much patience. All right. Any other? Yep, there's a layer on the bottom. And you do want to make sure to get this because it can affect your thermals to have the plastic layer on there. Part of the backplate's purpose, besides rigidity, is a little bit of heat dissipation typically. I'm not sure if this exact model is running thermal pads to the plate or not, but it's not uncommon either. So we've got the card out, and the next thing we need to do is actually open up some slots for it. So this is a 3+ slot design, but you just need the 2 actual slots freed up for it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right. I believe that actually starts with the second PCIe slot, as far as the chassis goes, to line up with the first slot in the motherboard, because the M.2 drive takes where the first slot would be here. Remove the guard for the PCI Express slot. Bring this down. Let's have a close. Nope. Okay, so we have that in place. Now we need to check with the thickness of the radiator, and I'm not quite sure that this will slide in either. I'll grab a tape measure, but I don't think that's fitting there. Do I have a tape measure? Okay, so I'll need a clearance of just under 2.25 off the back plate, and we get less than 2. So that's not going to work either. So thinking on choices we can make here. So just want to check these RAM modules. Curious if I don't think removing the heatsink is going to be an option. So
Do you think you have to go to a 240 radiator?
I think it may need a 240 for that clearance, or RAM with less height. I think I'll try the fit one more time and see if maybe I geometry wrong. The other option I have in the meantime is I can harvest my tower cooler from my old system to use for the moment.
So that H115 you didn't buy with this build, but you had from a previous project.
I had from a previous project, yes.
Yeah.
So it's like there's one little bit that maybe I can make this work. Let's see. Let's get that cable out of the way.
You can do it.
Still a cable that just wants to be in the way down here. So I could drill offset screws and make that work. But I think actually it's not the RAM. It just barely clears the RAM on this side. I can actually bring this down as much as I need. I think it's actually the shroud on the IO bar, which means I can just slide this down a bit. And if I get it just enough, I think we're actually in business. So that said, I do have the core oriented backwards. So let me flip that around. I think we might be in luck. I just need to bring it closer to the front as I first thought. It's a game of fractions of millimeters, but I think we got it. 4 screws. It's in. We've saved the day. Okay. So let's get just a dash more paste on that so we can get the full coverage. All these other cables. You go there. You can hang out there. And so I'm just trying to get this last screw in place under a cable. There we go. Now I will give these a little bit of screwdriver torque. Going opposite sides to keep everything distributed. Just like that. So this is the SATA connector for the cooler. So I'm going to snake this down probably below the RAM and into this slot. This will actually probably be easier if we stand this back up. But Tim's asking if I have any low-profile RAM sticks that I could try. I do not, but at least not in DDR5. But thankfully, that didn't end up being the issue anyways. It was just very, very like game of literal millimeters with the IO shield. Okay, so let's bring this where I can see and poke through some of these different cables. So here's the SATA. So we can connect that up at the end. Why not? We'll neatly manage this at the bottom later. Then up next, this will be the USB port. We won't worry about that. And this is a fan header. We won't worry about that just yet. More fan heads. So yeah, let's spin this around. Okay, so the USB header. I'm wondering if we can sneak this through the top, around the back, and up the bottom to keep it mostly out of the way.
Most definitely.
Just enough clearance here, and then I can reach. I don't know if you can quite see that through the top. Just trying to hook that with my finger and bring it through this opening.
And then down through the back and back through the bottom where it
yeah.
mounts.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a nice little opening down there. So as long as this is long enough, which
Let's take bets. I think
eyeballing
it's
it
long
seems
enough.
it will. Especially since they had the foresight to orient the USB to go up. Let's take that. Let's not cover up the screw. Doesn't look good that way. Okay, that looks better. Then we can fish this down and right back here. And which one was the USB? Right here.
That's part of the challenge of live streaming a build, and that is working in tight spaces with getting a decent camera angle.
Yeah,
need
there's
more cameras.
no way I can show you what I'm doing right now, but you saw it before when it was all more exposed. So it's just in the USB header right down here. Keeps that nice and clean. So then I've got basically the two fan headers for the radiator. So there's one, and so there's probably a better way I can run these. So if I take these down, I might ultimately send them up, but put them down to the back here, and then take the cable for this fan. Where are you hiding? Okay. This can come out the backside here, and I can do the same with this fan. It does pay to have long, thin fingers. I'm sure there's some tool that can also help. Okay, so there's those. And then this is going to be one of these headers, and I can't quite read those at this point, so I'll need to check the manual just to see which header is the correct one for that.
Which header is, as in, you mean which header is
For
the right
the-
one for the pump?
The CPU, yeah.
CPU pump. Yeah, the water block pump. And then there's another one for the fans.
Yeah, so this one I think integrates the fans with that. Let me just check the. I suppose I've got to check the motherboard diagram.
Ah, the manual again. Even professionals read the manual, folks.
And this is just a quick install. It's not the. That's not showing where the actual CPU fan header is.
Motherboard etch, give it away at all?
That's what I can't see, but I'll try a flashlight.
There you go. There's where that headlamp that Lane was talking about would come into play.
Mm-hmm. 2 RGB. System fan. It's usually one of these hiding right here at the top. Let me just take a quick peek. RAM. A little surprised that they only have the quick start guide in the box, but it's possible that I have tossed it somewhere. Okay, so pump fan is the second in above the RAM. Well, I guess it'd be the third in from this edge. So as long as I can make my edge reach. This is keyed, so it'll only go one way. One pin off. Come on. There we go. Okay, so that's connected to CPU pump. Again, we'll just send this mess down and around for now and clean that up later. So let's install our fans back up front. Uh, Now the rest of the system fans are thankfully easier to access.
Chris, you are working on 2.5 hours now. Not bad. You're getting there.
For deliberate and at this point unpracticed building,
Yeah, that's all right.
not bad. Okay.
Quality takes time.
And most of the time is just figuring out the precise fits. So that's one thing. If you want to make it easier on yourself, just get the larger case. None of this really would be an issue with, say, the 5000D as an alternative. But I like the small size, even if the 4090 is filling up literally a third of it. Okay, so we've got our front fans in. We do need to connect them to the motherboard. So I believe I can send one up. This is there's one. And the second can fit through here. We've got the JFP connectors, sysfan, more options. So let's take this route. Let's go over here. And you can be system fan 5. Okay. So up here, the rear fan needs to be connected. Push this back through. And this one will be system fan 2 for the rear. Doing everything mostly blind is not fun. There we are. And okay, so time to play with, I think, as we said, the 12-volt high power adapter. So we'll run this very carefully into the card here. So this one comes with the clip on top and the sense pins on the bottom. Let's see if we can get you a better look at that. So clip on top, and we want to make sure that this goes in nice and snug. So we're in, and I'm just giving it a little bit of a tug and a little bit of a walk to make sure it's fully seated. And that's basically should be all you need to do to ensure that this doesn't melt and catch fire. Is just make sure that that's all the way in, snug and connected. The rest of these, I will need to run the PCIe cables out of the PSU and then into these adapters. So let's turn the system around again. We'll worry about cleaning this up in a minute. And I think this is all I'll need for the power. That's another CPU cable. Take your time and stay organized. Don't make a mess like I've done. Okay, so under here, the PCI connections are the most accessible. So we'll connect this one here, make sure it's fully slotted. Take in the second one. And so each of these cables will provide us with 2 8-pins. So altogether, we'll get the 4 we need for the adapter. And how far back can the adapter reach? Not very far. So we'll push these through the bottom, and they will need to connect in the front. Once I get the straight through cable, this will be significantly cleaner. Okay, here's one pair. And the other pair. I thought. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what order that these connect in, again, as long as they do get fully connected. Come on, bend the right way. Yeah, should. I learned a long time ago that the best words are should and ought, and you don't make guarantees. Because as soon as you make a guarantee, you will be wrong. I do think part of NVIDIA's plan was to completely upset PC aesthetics. Because nothing about this adapter looks good. It's just kind of there. So we'll pull that slack back. And then we'll really just have our front panel type connectors left, I believe. I'll go ahead and feed these up. So I think the USB headers actually will take a different way. Try that again. Because the USB headers are actually up here on the side, I'm realizing. So just the front panel audio reset switch and such here. Okay, so we have the power LEDs. Power switch. And these go into the JFB port. There will be a diagram in your motherboard manual of how they actually connect. It's pretty standardized across systems, so once you know one, you should know them all. So I'm just connecting the LED light now. In a prior job, I at one point was building basically 200 mini ITX towers to use as thin clients, and connecting these headers in that something like 3-liter chassis that was fairly larger than the MITX board was not so fun. I think I've got the correct pins for that. So this one does not have the hard drive indicator light. It's just the power LED and power switch and reset switch. So then this here is the front panel audio. And that's usually in the back here. Looks like that's it. J-Odd1. I should probably pull out the GPU to make this all easier on myself, but at this point I'm invested. Come on. Then USB headers. So there's a USB 4, which is up this way. And USB 3. Again, this is keyed. Tab towards the inside of the board. And in. All right. Okay, so now we can take all this mess, bring it back. Little bit by little bit. No real taming of the adapter. Definitely going to be looking into the cable mod 90-degree angle. Just bring that right down here with a single connector and make that look significantly cleaner. But that will do for now. So I'm going to take one more look through and see if I missed any other connections. Got the 24 pin, got the dual 8-pin CPUs. The back fan's connected. The 2 front fans are connected. The cooler is all hooked up. It's on the CPU pump header back here. It's connected to the USB header down here.
Pan up a little bit, Chris.
GPU's all connected. Oh, yep, sorry.
There you go.
See, you got to speak up more when...
That's okay. I stepped away for a moment. I was in studio myself.
Okay. Yeah, so I think, aside from making it all look nice and pretty, we should be ready to hook it up.
See if she lives.
Just going to do a little cable stuffing for the moment. Forgive me. Okay, so 2.5 gigabit LAN. I've got a USB hub in this monitor here, so that's just a nice single cable. We'll run, that first one is HDMI. So the second port is DisplayPort. Bring our power back. Well, the monitor reacted, so that's a good sign. Oh. Most important step, turn on the power supply again. It has life. Now I know the AMD systems will spend some time initializing the memory. I don't recall, is Raptor Lake need to go through the same process on first boot. Yeah, we'll know if it catches fire soon. So I'm gonna go into BIOS here. So we do have display.
Yeah, I don't see any flames.
We are into the BIOS. So yeah, with these LGA 1700 motherboard, the Z790, it'll ask you what kind of cooler you have to set limits accordingly. So basically at the box cooler, it'll keep things pretty well limited, 253 watts, 280 amps. If you have a third-party tower cooler, it'll push it a little more aggressively, up to 288 watts, and kind of lift the amp limit. And if you're water-cooled, it's basically going to give it all the wattage it can reasonably deliver, and just leave it up to your thermals to decide. So that's what we'll go with here. Then let's check real quick. So we're seeing our 8P cores, our 8E cores. Is this large enough for you to see, or should I zoom in on the screen?
Yeah, maybe zoom in a touch. There we go.
Yep.
Beautiful.
So our memory speeds right now are just at stock 4800 mega transfers. So if we go into, should be here, really we need the advanced setup. So motherboards, that's going to be those.
Ooh, camera's wigging out. There we go. Come on, focus, baby.
There
There
it's
you
been a
go.
while since I've been in the MSI system. Is it just under overclocking then for the XMP? There we go. XMP profile enabled. So that's going to give us our 6,000 mega transfers and our advertised timing of 30, 40, 40, 96 at 1.4 volts. Yeah, we'll leave that for now. So I did go ahead and create a Windows 11 installation drive earlier. If I
Ah,
can
very good.
find where I've lost it.
You mean a USB drive?
Yeah.
Little USB.
So if you haven't made a, done a clean Windows installation before, it is very straightforward. So all you need is an 8 gigabyte thumb drive or larger. And you go, I always search Windows 11 media creation tool, find the Windows 11 download site, and it's right from Microsoft. It'll download a utility that lets you create a bootable thumbstick with the Windows installer on it. Same thing they did for 10, and I think 8 they did that way as well. You can always download the ISO instead if you want and use Rufus, and Rufus will let you configure some additional options if you know what you're doing. But for just a basic Windows 11 install, this is really all you need. So here, let's go into our boot priority. So we want to bring the that's the hard disk USB up to the front. Come on. Do it this way. Okay. And it's probably just escape, save and exit. Save changes, reboot. So setting it to the USB key, putting the memory profile enabled. It's gonna freak out again. Usually I'd get Windows installed first before applying the XMP profile because every so often it won't be stable, but we'll expedite this time. So yeah, the minimal RGB is really how I prefer it. Just little accents, nothing too flashy. Change autofocus modes and it'll hopefully cooperate a bit better. Okay, so the thumb drive is flashing, so it's loading up the installer, I think.
Noticing the monitor you're on, that's a Dell panel.
Yeah,
What is it?
U3219Q, I think. It's a 4K 60 hertz panel. Very
Nice.
handy for testing.
Yes. Aha, there's the magic spinny wheel of wow.
Yep. All right. English.
Still a little blurry on screen, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Oh, that might be better.
There we go. I'm going to skip the product key for now. I do have one to put in, but I don't feel like typing it on stream. It'll be Pro. Next. So custom install is the option you want to take. If you try and do the upgrade, it assumes that you have Windows installed already, like an older version, and it takes you back into the operating system to run it. There's no operating system on this. It's a bare drive, so we need to do the custom option. Now here, you have the option to click new and format stuff all yourself. If you're intimidated by that, you can always just go here, have it selected, and hit next. And it'll format all those partitions automatically for you. But if you do want to get in and do the nitty gritty, you have that option as well. I'm realizing the other option I should have verified before installing is if UEFI and all that is enabled, but I'll assume it is by default. So Windows does install reasonably quick these days. Just a couple minutes, thankfully. Let's see if we can bring the exposure down so you can see what's going on there. Got to bring that down a lot. Yeah, as Lane Flying Mongoose is saying in the chat, if you use Rufus, you can set up a local user account. You don't have to use the Microsoft account setup, and just other kind of more power user oriented options. So if you want to explore those, certainly feel free. It's just not something I'm going to mess with right now. And I'll probably adjust the fan curves a little bit. It's running quite quiet. I think I've got my sound meter here. Certainly not a level that most people would complain about. It even picks up. Okay, a little louder than I'd like. So once I get it set up, I'll tune the fan curves and make it pretty much run silent most of the time. part of it is with the liquid cooling loop, you can never quite eliminate the noise, but it's also more of just like a drone sound, not like it's the high pitch fans that tend to get obnoxious. I think that should say without an internet connection.
LOL. My fat fingers mistyped without an internet
To
connection.
err is human. And Lord knows I've made a lot of errors today, but we got through it.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so rebooting with that, I'm going to go ahead and take this moment to pull the drive.
Here's also how to install Windows 11 without a Microsoft account.
Yes.
I just link that in.
I use a Microsoft account because I use OneDrive and link stuff together, but I certainly understand the people who don't want to mess with that noise. This even includes a GPU brace. I think there's probably a more ordained way to install it, but I'll just set it there for now to fight some sag.
I wonder, is the radiator feed to the CPU block, that piping, is there a way to tuck that out of the way? Is that yeah, maybe a little down by the motherboard later.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to also keep it out of the front fan.
That's what I was thinking. It would just block a little bit of front fan airflow.
Yeah, I mean the 140 mil fans are so large that I don't think it's really obstructing airflow in any meaningful way.
Agreed.
Funny coming through there.
Just the OCD in me kicking in.
Yep. So I think I've eaten up enough time for now. We'll make it pretty later. All right, let's bring this back in. See. Actually, I'm going to turn this just a moment because I know some of the questions it's going to ask. And I'll try not to dox myself. Look at computer.
Is she quiet?
So she's running about 34 dB right now, which is louder than I'd like, but it's not, obtrusive in any way.
You can dial a few things back in the BIOS probably if you want.
Yeah, seems like I may need to either install the Wi-Fi antennas or else we've got to figure out how to get through this and get the drivers first. Because I have Ethernet connected. And while there's activity lights, it doesn't seem to be respecting that. I don't remember, what was the shortcut to escape this?
Shortcut to escape what?
The setup menu.
Oh. I'm not sure I can help you with that one.
It's in our without a Microsoft article. Yeah, I thought it was Windows key R, but that didn't seem to be responding. But this keyboard may also need to be directly connected.
Lane says Shift F10.
There we go. Yeah.
Look on screen, Chris. Lane has more tips for you. Task kill FIM.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. But I think you got it.
Load DXC. Oh, I. Okay. They cut off this workaround too?
I do not know. I can't see what you're looking at right now.
This one. Yeah, that's the OOBE network connection flow.
Zoom in a
I
little
run
bit.
that.
Yeah.
I get to here. It forces me to retry, get back to here. And it's still trying to connect me to a network you can't connect to. Maybe I have to disconnect the Ethernet.
Time for a good old wire.
Well, I had the wire in. It's just
Oh.
not picking up the driver or something.
I see.
So well, I guess I will look for the LAN driver and download that real quick. Unless Lane can find another workaround in the meantime. Drivers and downloads. Chipset driver, LAN driver, Wi-Fi 2, why not? Download, these three. It's these kinds of roadblocks that are really frustrating because I'm not even trying to do anything sidestepping, and they've decided to make it difficult anyway. If I kept my Ubuntu installer, I'd be up and running by now.
And there's the plug for Linux.
Mm-hmm. Just extracting drivers and then I'll swap it over. Yeah, going with Windows 10 first is an option, but then you got a messier install base by the time you get back on 11. And okay, that's done. That's done. That's done. Cool. Close that. Close that. Close that. Checked.
This is this point in the process where Marco would come in with a million different Windows tips to get around this stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he stepped away.
And when I was working IT, I knew all the tips, but then I got out as Windows 11 was coming in and didn't have to learn them. City probably. That's the easier way. So Windows is hiding behind here, and I wonder if I could actually just task kill the OOBE. This, yeah, I don't want to break it. Okay, so chipset first. Yes, yes. Still baffles me that there's not just a basic working level that functions. Very descriptive MSI, thank you. And Wi-Fi just in case. Here. Check the chat real quick. Yeah, trying to pull new IP could potentially work, but I'm not connected to a network to begin with. So let's retry now. There we go. All right, so let's swap that away. You don't need to know my passcode or network. Okay. All right. We are just a moment in. Question mark. Just rebooting. Let's see. Do I need to fix my boot order again? Yep. Okay. Finish loading. Oh, no. Personal. I guess we're in Windows proper. Back to secret information. I don't care. No, we don't need all of this. We don't need anything in typing. We don't need the Taylor experience for advertising ID. Fine. Don't need to customize. Don't care about linking my phone right now. I miss the days of just installing a system. I don't need Xbox Game Pass. Just installing an operating system. Hi.
Ta-da. Should we say ta-da?
I think we're about there. I just wanted to play 20 questions with me.
Good old Microsoft making sure they get their pound of flesh.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No. And if the particular games I play ever get Linux support, I'm switching and probably never looking back. All right. Now we'll check the rest of our updates. Should I throw on deciding which benchmarks to drag over to run on it?
I don't know, but I'm looking at your back.
Oh, I know. I'm covering up some credentials.
Ah, yes. You don't want to give the audience all your credentials?
Not particularly.
They're nice people. Why not? Matt Groff says, huzzah. You got the huzzah from the audience.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's go. Well, let's check the disk. I think I misplaced my local copy of Cinebench because it's not on here. That Geekbench will serve. Surprised Brittany's not in the chat telling me to wrap it up.
Say again, what's this about? Wrap it up?
Oh, I said I'm surprised Brittany's not in the chat telling me to end it.
Remember, she's a keeper. She let you get that 4090, and she's here for the long haul, apparently.
Yeah, she is. This is the other thing about Windows Update that bothers me is it's still clearly running updates, but it wants me to restart. Come on, Windows. I'll say this is the part of IT I don't miss. It's just sitting around waiting on progress bar. Okay, so why is the file transfer unhappy? Most of it. Just gonna force that. No one saw anything. Oh, to stop Windows from messing with your drivers? Yeah. Should have gone with Ubuntu. And has anyone checked if the latest GeForce driver is still the one with the CPU consuming bug?
No, I think they updated that.
Okay. Come on, Windows. I suppose this is why other tech tubers have pre-installed drives ready to go for everything. Let's see. Probably more fun to show the system than it is to show Windows being Windows. Finally getting somewhere. I do have a key, but I'm going to skip it for now. So Lane says, as of yesterday, there is not a hotfix for version 531.18 on the GeForce driver. And the latest release prior was 528.49. So that's probably the one to go with if I plan to use RTX Super Resolution, which probably not at this point. Is that the only condition that triggers it, is using the Super Resolution and then closing the game? Yeah, seems to be. Oh, I'm being so rude. I'm not showing all the cores in action. Not that Geekbench really hammers cores that much anymore. Reading 4.6, 4.7, 4.9. Oh, I just noticed the GPU is not showing up. So I probably need to install. I don't even use you anymore, last. Let's go away. don't care. Just... All right. Actually, GeForce 528.49 was it? Yeah. Oh yeah, so that's a very rough score since I was messing with it in the middle, and I don't think all our drivers are quite in place yet. Looks like that's about in line. The one I just pulled up to Crosstrek is showing 17,200. So this is just off the Geekbench website of a random result to check. So single core score for me is low, but the multi-core score appears to be in line. So definitely have some tuning I need to do, more driver installations. But at the start. And let's get our GPU driver installed. So I haven't played any PC build simulator. Does it accurately reflect this aspect of system building where you're just waiting on things to install? Yeah. I guess that's still snuck in GeForce Experience. That's fine. I don't want to mess with that right now. As long as we now have a GPU. Cool. Um, see if there's anything we can install quick on Steam. Just one moment. Hiding more secret information. All right, so how long is this going to take to install? I do have a gigabit connection here, thankfully, so usually things aren't too bad, but 85 gigs is probably pushing it. So we'll have to do a Destiny stream another time. Let's cancel that. And yeah. Well, one of the games I really wanted to play was City Skylines with all the RAM. So it's currently only pulling about 50 megs. Let's see if I connect Ethernet and get a better download rate. Maybe, maybe not. It's not going to switch over. I'm curious because I thought they just added a feature to pull files from local computers. I don't know if there's an option to control that or not. yeah, definitely want to get this replaced, get everything streamlined. I guess, is the tedious cable management something that anyone is interested in watching, or is that just best done off stream? Slightly better for airflow to do the cable management? I mean, yes, but I think ultimately cable management is about the aesthetics, not the fraction of a percent of airflow improvement through the chassis. Because the fact of the matter is it really doesn't make as much of a difference as people expect. It's more the total air in or out, unless you have a really serious airflow restriction somewhere, or you're blocking component to a particular component. Like, if you had, say, an old IDE ribbon cable in front of your tower cooler, you'd probably have some problems from that. But most of the cables in a modern chassis are thin enough, narrow enough that they're not doing any real meaningful restriction of airflow. Just about ready. So I was very excited because yesterday City Skylines 2 was announced. And it looks like it's using Unreal Engine, potentially Unreal Engine 5, which should make very nice use of this system. As I said towards the start of the stream, City Skylines is already a lot of a RAM hog, which is a lot of the reason why I wanted 64 gigabytes of memory. And I can only imagine what the sequel will do when it gets here. I mean, I'm sure it'll have some optimization, but they're also pushing up the map size potential significantly. There was an achievement found in the list. I think they provided at least a subset of list of achievements for City Skylines 2, and one of them is to unlock 150 tiles on the map for a city. Currently, you can get 9 tiles by default in the game, and even with mods, to max out the map would be 81 tiles, so nearly doubling that in area. And presumably that'll be supported on consoles as well. So but most of all, it looks like they've added. Yeah, I don't. Sure. Okay. That's great. I can't see the EULA, but you're gonna say that I accepted it anyway. Cool. Love that. I wonder if that would hold up in court now that I was presented an EULA that I can't actually agree to. Cool. So let's load up whatever random map it's going to load. It doesn't look like we're running at 4K, so I'll need to fix that. I can see the pixels are probably at 1080 here. Maybe 1440 if it loaded from my other system. So let's check that first. So graphics, 1500 by 900. I'm not sure where it pulled that from. You don't need no VSync. Color correction, I don't care. High, very high, very far. Let's just really go for it. looking sharp. So, wow, that's not much of a city here. I don't know what else I have. Anything larger. I don't know. I think this is ancient, but we'll try it. And this will also mean I'll actually be able to play with some mods now. Yeah, this is running so smooth at max detail, 4K. Oh, I'm excited. Also don't remember the city at all, but it's okay. I mean, I'm just zooming around and it's keeping pace. Just going to poke at chat real quick. So, Lane again saying the dynamic loading and world partitioning from EU Unreal Engine 5 and from 4 was improved, which is true. And yeah, the 8 square kilometer map size, I think, also matches up with what the maximum current size is in City Skylines, if I remember right. Something about there. And then, yeah, with the world partition, that you can create a seamless 100 square kilometer map in Unreal Engine 5. Now, I mean, one thing when they're giving these scales in games is, I'm sure it's dynamically adjusted based on how much detail you're putting in the world, but the dynamic level of detail that Unreal Engine 5 allows is much more fine-grained. So you'll find even on this, with the max settings, as we zoom through, there will be things that suddenly pop into detail. Not nearly as bad as my old system was, but you know, you can see, I think that's maybe more of a depth of field setting here, but the pop in and pop out has been an issue with the City Skylines. And the City Skylines 2, if it is using Unreal Engine 5, it looks like it's going to be a much better dynamic adjustment of that detail. Even this running at max speed with the vanilla settings anyway, and it seems like it's still maintaining a full 60 FPS. I don't recall if there's a quick way to bring up an FPS counter there, but I think I can do the game bar. Is game bar not enabled? Or it's an old version? Alt-C. Game bar. That didn't help. I don't know why it wouldn't be at least a version that shows me my FPS counter. Yeah. Cities, Skylines, FPS counter. The FPS counter in Steam. Probably under. I'll go offline settings. In-game FPS, top right. I need to relaunch. And by the way, this system has not spun up in volume at all doing that either. Let's keep this to always on top so we can see that. CPU continues play. So it's running at 34 degrees for the GPU right now. There we go. Now we have an FPS counter. 900 FPS in the menu. Cool. Let me just adjust this so you can see it too. Maybe. Now the FPS counter has gone away. Oh, it's up there. So I'm getting 90 to 100 FPS right now at 4K. Let's go load up that other city. I think it was this one. So as we're loading here, it got up to like 40 degrees. So even with this more complicated city, we're still running in the 40s with 50 FPS with all details on. Check the CPU usage. So it's using about 35 to 40% on the GPU. There's probably some optimizations we can do to get this running even faster. Some of it may just be limited by the engine, honestly. But if you can just barely see up there, it's showing 50 to 45 FPS, which, you know, this isn't an action shooter. This is a visual aesthetic game more than anything. And I will happily take that compared to the much lower settings I was using to get, if that, with my prior config, whether that was the Titan XP or the Radeon 6800 XT that I was using. So definitely a powerful, eye candy driving GPU. Very happy with that. Just wondering if there's anything else I can show you or if we should wrap it up from there. But this has been a fun build. Had some close calls with the spacing on this. So again, this system built in the Corsair 4000D Airflow mid-tower chassis. It has the Intel Core i7-13700K, the ASUS Tough Gaming GeForce RTX 4090. Just bring this up a little bit for you to see better. 64 gigabytes of G-Skill memory, DDR5-6000 at cache latency 30. So nice and speedy. Using a 280 millimeter all-in-one cooler from Corsair that I did in a prior review. So if you look back to the liquid cooling roundup I did with the first gen Ryzen systems, that's what that is from. And 1000 watt Corsair power supply, and a Western Digital 2 terabyte PCIe Gen 4 boot drive, the SN850X. So if there are any questions about this, if you've sat through the whole stream or jumped around and you want to leave them in the comments, or if you want to pop in the Discord, I know Dave put a link in the chat a while ago. Let me see if I can just grab another real quick before we go, so that if you have any questions or questions, suggestions, comments, or just want to talk about tech or other things, you could do that. I'm just generating a coffee link. So I'll drop this in the chat if you want to come join us and say hello. And you can always find us on the web at hothardware.com, youtube.com/hothardware, HotHardware Twitch. We're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find us pretty easy just about anywhere. And with that, I think I am going to finally end this stream. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for joining, and thanks for stopping by. And they close.